It shouldn't need saying, but apparently it does. Such is the age that we live in. Nazism is bad and shit and wrong. I don't agree with nationalism, I don't agree with racism, I don't agree with race realism, I do not agree with the right on pretty much anything other than the fact that they too are human beings and that they have rights. Like I say, none of this should need to be said in this day and age, but apparently it does, because looking at any of these situations and recent events with any kind of nuance or historical perspective or anything approaching an even objective mindset apparently means that you're a Nazi sympathizer. If that's what you think, you can go fuck yourself with the largest, sharpest, roughest object that you can find. I fucking hate Nazis, but they're by no means the only thing that I hate. Trump's a buffoon and an idiot, and he is dragging the United States down in a similar way to the way Brexit is dragging Britain down. But in relation to what happened in Charlottesville, he's actually been fairly good. I mean, everyone just wants him to out and out condemn one side, because Nazis are bad, which they are. But he has pointed to troublemaking and violence on both sides, while at the same time specifically calling out neo-Nazis, and somehow this isn't good enough when it should be, even though it's accurate. I mean, I don't know what rock certain people have been living under for the past, it's got to be over a year now, probably longer if you include other events. But there has been street violence, rioting, physical attacks on people going on for a long time, and Trump is certainly in a position to have witnessed attacks on his followers, on his rallies, on events and so on happening on the right, not the alt-right necessarily, but the right. So it's understandable why, from his perspective, there would be bad actors on both sides, because the same people getting into brawls with Nazis, actual Nazis, right now, have been fighting and beating and smacking on people who aren't Nazis for a long time. So if you understand Trump's perspective on this, having seen his own rallies disrupted and his followers attacked and and so on, it makes sense. But it also should make sense from any kind of neutral perspective. If you've been paying attention, there has been a great deal of left-wing violence for some time, and it's only really relatively recently that the right wing has been fighting back. I'm left-wing. I've done my last video tells you what my politics are in some great detail and plots me on the political compass if you want to check my credentials. But I still condemn the violence and attacks coming from the left, especially as they're involved in censorship and so on, and just violence anyway against people just is wrong, except in self-defense. So I'm going to condemn that. All these calls to condemn anyone on the right, to get anyone on the right to condemn these neo-Nazis. Where has everyone else been while Antifa has been cracking skulls with bike locks, burning cars, half blinding people? Where are the similar calls to stand up and decry this, and where are the people that did? I mean, maybe it did happen. I don't know. But in this speech about Charlottesville, Trump used the term alt-left as a kind of mirror image of the alt-right. So, is there an alt-left? To answer that, you really have to answer what is the alt-right, and that's surprisingly not very easy, because the alt-right as a term has meant lots of different things. There's some dispute over who coined it. Richard Spencer likes to claim it was him, and the meaning has changed over time. So what is the alt-right? Currently it seems to mean some kind of extremist ethno-nationalist, but earlier in its history that's not really what it meant. A lot of people cottoned onto the term who were more conservative libertarians or conservative traditionalists who felt that the mainstream conservative wing, the Republican Party, had become cucked by buying into too many sort of Democrat, left-wing, welfare state policies. This in the US, which is monstrously right-wing as a whole anyway. But still, this was their perspective. So you could have seen the alt-right during that period as being a more libertarian, in many ways more socially progressive even side of the conservatives in a lot of ways, despite the presence of the traditionalists, because of that libertarian side to them. But then the far right has managed to wrest back control of that narrative to an extent. Mostly, it has to be said, thanks to people wanting to use the term as a term of abuse and taking it to mean far right, even when its meaning wasn't really far right. So now you've got the alt-light and all these other terms being bandied about, and the alt-right has come to mean this more extreme ethno-nationalist group. But alt-right is still an attempt by them to clean up their image, to steer clear of calling for genocide and things like that. They've tried to clear up their image and give themselves a kind of PR overlook. But still, people don't really buy into that. So these days, when you say alt-right, people mean far-right extremists, neo-Nazis, racists, all of the rest of this, So political extremists who are against LGBT rights and so on. And now they're just equating it to Nazi. So I guess the best you can say is that the alt-right are the extreme wing of the right wing, the extreme part of the right wing. So is there an alt-left? Is there an extreme wing of the left wing? I don't think anyone can really deny that there is. There have always been, Stalinists, tankies, whatever you want to call them. There have always been, hardcore anarchists, the Black Bloc, going years back. So in that sense, an extreme on the opposite wing, most definitely there have always been revolutionary communists, anarchists, Black Bloc, Stalinists. You name it, there has definitely always been what you could call the alt-left. Interestingly though, alt-left is a term that a lot of relatively sane leftists took on in rejection of identity politics, to try and say, we're the real left, in a way that the alt-right was trying to say that we're the real right. But the alt-left in that sense is much more moderate and measured and considered, more like the Fabians, if anything. It's a callback to traditional socialism and a rejection of identity politics in preference for class politics. But now Trump has coined alt-left. Obviously that term is going to be taken up, referring to left-wing extremists, which do exist. So is there an alt-left in this kind of sense? Is there an equivalence here between the shield-carrying, baton-wielding, helmet-wearing, thugs on the alt-right, and the same thing on the alt-left? Well, much as it pains me to admit it, the shield-carrying, baton-wielding people on the right are a response to those people on the left who have already been around for a long time, attacking, Trump rallies, disrupting Milo's speaking engagements, amongst other things. They've been around for a while, and they have been beating on people with relative impunity for that time. So when you see the right-wing thugs in that getup, they're copying Antifa. They're copying the people who have attacked lots of right-wing people, and most of the right-wing people that they've attacked up until this point have not been Nazis. So there are absolutely people willing to use violence and intimidation and doxing and all these other horrible, nefarious tactics on the left, absolutely, and now on the right. So they're mirror image of each other that way. So, okay, well, what about moral or ethical equivalence? Do the Nazis have horrendous, horrible views. The alt-left, for want of a better term, have nasty, horrendous views. Not as bad as genocide, which some extremists on the far right believe in. Not necessarily as bad. But bad in their own way, lots of them. Things like erasing history, as we've seen with the pulling down of statues and so on. These are tactics of ISIS. Some of them have crazy far-end ideas about how society should be organised, just as people on the right have crazy far-out ideas about how society should be organised. So there's a lot of equivalence. Just because they're on the left and have some nice, good views, doesn't mean that they don't also hold bad views. And the right wing, at least for the moment, have some good views in the way that they relate to free expression and so on, because they're having their speech quashed. I don't doubt that would, and indeed has, changed as they've gained some political power again. But for the time being, you can look to that side and you can say, well, at least they're for free expression, whereas the other side isn't. So there's good and bad views on both sides, but yes, the Nazis have worse views. They're Nazis. What do you want me to say? But there's a difference between saying something and doing something. If you're a war criminal who's somehow escaped Nazi Germany and is still, relatively fit, and you help an old lady across the road, you did something nice. You did something good. You helped an old lady across the road. If you're a philanthropist and you spend your every weekend doling out food to the homeless, you give every other penny you earn to good causes or whatever, but you drop kick a puppy into a wood chipper, it doesn't matter how nice and wonderful you are in the rest of your life, you drop kicked a puppy into a wood chipper. The actions matter way more than words, until the words reach the harm principle, which is a direct call for violence. Is about the only thing that really reaches that, or expression in a way that relies on the suffering of others, such as child pornography. These are examples of genuinely harmful speech. Otherwise, about the only way you can harm someone with speech is to put a loud hailer to their ear and shout. That's about it. So long as people are speaking, even if what they're saying is vile and horrible, it's just speech. The moment you pick up a stick and you beat someone with it, you're doing something wrong. No matter what your beliefs are, no matter if they're the most wonderful beliefs in the world. Unless you're fighting in self-defense, it's just not justifiable. And pointing out that there is wrongdoing on both sides is not to defend either side. I hate paedophiles. I hate animal abusers. Oh my god, why are you defending paedophiles? It just makes no sense. Right, and it doesn't matter if one thing's worse or not than the other. That's a fallacy of relative privation. Both things can be bad, even if they're different degrees of bad. I don't want to have to choose between two sets of authoritarian assholes. And I don't want to have to skip condemning one set of violent thugs because I'll somehow be told I'm defending another set of violent thugs that I'm also condemning. I should be able to tell you both are bad without being labelled a Nazi, and without being labelled a communist. But that's closer to what I actually am, but it's not what these fuckers are, I'll tell you that much. So how about it? Can we examine these things sensibly? Can we get condemnations of violence on both sides from figures on both political wings? Please? Can we do that? Can we both say, can all sides say, we don't want violence, we don't want political means to be pursued through violence, we want it to be pursued through discussion and democracy and debate over ideas. And can we, if we're going to lose our shit, can we lose it proportionally, do you think? Because at the moment, on a societal scale, this alt-left, whatever you want to call it, this extremist wing, the regressive left, the social justice warriors, the alt-left, Antifa, these are the people who are wielding the most societal influence and doing the most societal harm at the moment. Whereas the far right are just kooks. They got no real influence, they got no real say. I mean, much as you might try to decry Trump as a Nazi, and he is right-wing, and he is terrible. He's not these people. And he's been stopped at every turn trying to do the things that he wants to do. So even politically, even socially, they've got no cachet, they've got no pull. Try as they might, they don't seem capable of doing anything. And 100 Chads with tiki torches is nothing. Someone died. Other people have been injured, hurt, maced, clubbed, had their shops and businesses destroyed. It's not one-sided. There are wankers everywhere. Zang.